What's good, everybody? It's your boy Strack Reacts, back with another reaction video on this beautiful, fine night. Today we got the Blitz. Before we get right into this video, please like, comment, subscribe, turn all post notifications on. If you are new to the channel, welcome to the family. Now, this is a topic that was not covered in school as far as I can remember. I have never heard of the Blitz before. I have never heard of this a day in my life. So this whole topic is new to me. Forgive me if I cannot keep up with, some of the details given to me in this video, because this is actually my first time actually hearing about this story. Okay. Music in the background.
On the 7th of September 1940, a year into World War II, Germany launched an unprecedented bombing raid on London.
Oh.
Until this point, German bombers had focused mainly on military targets. Now they turned their attention to civilian ones, in an attack that killed 450 and injured 3 times that number.
Oh, wow.
Moreover, this attack marked a drastic change in German tactics. From this day forward, London would be bombed almost every single night for the next 57 nights.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. How did this begin? Why was Germany bombing London every night for 57 days straight? Or 57 nights straight, 57 days, 57 nights. Why was they bombing them for this long? And why was it this long? Why didn't England fight back? This is crazy. Rest in peace to all the innocent lives lost, because every night, rest in peace.
Destruction that became known as the Blitz. In 1940, France surrendered to German invaders. This left Germany, under the command of dictator Adolf Hitler, to focus its attention on Britain. Hitler had a strong desire to carry out a full-scale invasion of Britain, but there was one obstacle that stood in his way: Britain's Air Force. The Royal Air Force, or RAF, was formidable. Though it had far fewer aircraft than the German Luftwaffe, its pilots were highly motivated to defend their country, and were bolstered by volunteers from around the world. Britain's use of the new technology of radar was also much more advanced than Germany's, giving them a significant edge when it came to responding to incoming attacks. On top of this, German attackers had many different objectives: destroying facilities on the ground, engaging in the air, and targeting and blockading ships in the waters around Britain. British fighters, on the other hand, were focused almost entirely on engaging the German threat. This singular purpose, combined with technology like the highly maneuverable Spitfire, allowed Britain's relatively small force to withstand one German attack after another. Germany's superior numbers, however, eventually started to wear down the RAF. Were it not for a chain of events that took place in August 1940, it's likely that Germany would eventually have prevailed. It was late in August when some German bombers accidentally dropped their payloads on civilian areas near London. Up until this point, Germany had aimed mainly for military targets, and so it was a shocking development that they should appear to target civilians. In response, on the 25th of August 1940, Britain bombed Berlin, enraging Hitler to the point that he commanded a change in strategy. German planes would now focus on decimating British cities, London in particular. The British government had long feared that Germany would launch a campaign against the civilian population.
Of course,
some preparations had already been made. In 1939, thousands of children had been evacuated from urban areas to the countryside. Shelters had also been distributed to city dwellers. Anderson shelters were buried in back gardens, while Morrison shelters could be installed inside.
What is that? Who is sleeping in that? Why are they in cages like that? Oh, is that to protect you if any bombings or intruders were to what are you sleeping in a box like that for? Help me out, please. They are not animals. I'm trying to come up with different scenarios of why they're sleeping on it. The most I could think of is if they get bombed throughout the night, that would help them, stay protected. Or if somebody were to come in and try to harm them or throw something in the room, maybe they'll be more protected in that. But it's open all around the sides and it's just protected at the top. So I'm just gonna say bomb. It's like bomb proof, I guess.
blackouts had also been enforced in many urban areas to make it difficult for enemy planes to locate their targets. Beyond these preparations, though, life had continued with some semblance of normality. People went to work as normal, gathered in pubs and cinemas, and went about their daily business in cities that were, for the most part, intact. This all changed on the 7th of September 1940, a day that would later become known as Black Saturday. On this day, a massive German raid killed over 450 people and wounded more than 1,500 in London alone. Shocking and devastating as it was, Black Saturday was just a taste of what was to come. After this date, bombing raids continued almost every night.
Oh, wow.
Population centres such as Liverpool, Bristol, Manchester, Cardiff, Glasgow, and Southampton.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking maybe we wasn't taught this part of the World War II because it didn't have anything to do with the U.S. Maybe the U.S. just teaches us stuff about, U.S.-related war, U.S.-related history. But I feel like we should have, known about this. Just like how we should have known that England was one of the major countries that was taking over everybody, that was invading everybody. Well, not just, not like specifically invading to take over, but whether it was invading to take over or invading for the protection from somebody else and, invading and taking over. I feel like we should have learned about these things. I feel like we should have learned about the black soldiers that had to go through that over there in England when their own fellow white American soldiers was treating them like that so poorly. They didn't tell us that the community had their back. We wasn't told that England abolished slavery. I'm sorry, I'm going down the list right now. I'm going crazy. I'm sorry.
Southampton were targeted, but London was subjected to by far the most intense bombing campaign of all. These raids were devastating. Whole streets were obliterated. Churches, schools, cinemas, hospitals, and pubs were flattened or consumed by flames.
What a shame.
Air raid sirens rang out every night, sometimes multiple times each night. Most citizens were, on a daily basis, exposed to death, destruction, and scenes of absolute horror. They lived their lives ready at a moment's notice to flee to shelters, where they would spend hours huddling cold and afraid as explosions rang out through the city above. When the all clear finally sounded, they would emerge to fight fires, clear rubble, bury the dead, and treat the injured, knowing that, in all likelihood, the same thing would happen again the next night.
What a horrible way to live.
And the next.
Like they're in war. They're not in
Many
battle.
famous London landmarks were damaged but not destroyed. Buckingham Palace, the Imperial War Museum, the Tower of London, the London Zoo, St Paul's Cathedral, and the Houses of Parliament were all hit but survived, in no small part thanks to the heroic work of firefighters in the city. While many famous buildings were saved, thousands of ordinary homes and workplaces were not. The Docklands area of London, home to many working-class families, was particularly badly hit.
Right.
The nearby docks were a desirable target, and so attracted many bombs. This combined with a shortage of space in shelters and very few resources for rebuilding bomb-damaged areas to make the Docklands one of the places most severely affected. Despite the unending horror of the Blitz, though, life carried on. People went to work and some pubs, theatres and cinemas remained open. People were often pictured carrying on with their day-to-day work despite the devastation around them. There are many examples of people using humour as a way of dealing with the horrific conditions of the Blitz, and pictures from the time appear to document a sense of cheerful endurance. The attitude that prevailed, at least according to official accounts, was typified by the now famous morale-boosting campaigns run by the British government, with slogans like, "Your courage, your cheerfulness, your resolution will bring us victory," and "Keep calm and carry on."
I've seen that so many times. I learn something new every day.
Something that is often fondly remembered.
I guess that's what that quote originated from.
Of national pride, but at the same time, it represents only some of the story. Subjected to nightly near-death experiences, many people suffered a range of mental health problems: night terrors, bedwetting, nervous collapse, and psychosis. Some gave up on seeking shelter when the air raid sirens sounded. In the blackout-darkened streets, crime was at an all-time high, and there were few resources to combat it. Fear and nervous tension were pervasive. Personal records from the time reflect the fact that almost everyone was terrified and suffering, but had no choice but to carry on with their lives. The fact that they did carry on was viewed by the government as evidence of high morale among civilians.
Right.
And this was used extensively for propaganda purposes. In fact, the stress and suffering of the British people was made worse due to the government not providing adequate shelters. Anderson shelters were damp and cold and would provide...
I mean, why would they? Why would they provide adequate shelters? Especially not in that area. They're at war at this point. I mean, unless there was any, safer places to provide those shelters, but they're going night for night for night. Like, they're not stopping. So a shelter wouldn't really be the best bet, especially during a war, because now a shelter, you have to provide a building, stabilization, maybe protection or security, food, housing like beds, pillows, blankets, maybe little essentials, toothbrush, soap, tissues, paper towels. You gotta worry about having the heat on because it said they were cold, they were freezing, everything's getting bombed. There's a lot of cold air coming into these crevices of the places that they're hiding in because they might be damaged a little bit too. And the power's probably out. So all this is money getting put into this just for it to possibly be bombed in one night. And if not, you gotta worry about it the next night. It's just, they're gonna keep bombing whatever they see they did not bomb. Back to back to back. That's unfortunate. Rest in peace to everyone, man.
Protection only from shrapnel and not from an actual bomb blast. Morrison shelters would protect those inside from collapsing buildings,
okay,
but not from the fires or thick choking
it's
clouds
for buildings,
of dust that often followed.
Not bombs.
Some dedicated shelters were built using incorrect materials, resulting in them simply crumbling when hit, providing little or no protection. There was great demand for deep underground shelters, similar to those that the government had constructed for its own personnel.
Right.
But the government was reluctant to provide these, fearing that if they were available to ordinary people, those ordinary people might retreat underground and never leave, thus hampering the war effort. As a result, Londoners were initially forbidden from using the tube network for shelter. Desperate, many Londoners did so anyway by buying tickets and refusing to leave the station during air raids.
Exactly. And if not, I would have been staying in that underground government facility or whatever it was called, and I would have told them to block off a certain part then and keep me here and just feed me and this and that. I'll be fine. I'll be out your way. Why can't we keep some people blocked off? Yes, I understand we can't save everybody, but we got to save some people.
It was only after an escalating series of protests that the government relented and allowed ordinary people to shelter in tube stations deep below ground. These proved popular and was soon fitted with toilets, beds, medical facilities, and more.
Wow.
These shelters, of course, were not without their hazards. Some years later, in 1943, 173 people died in a crush at Bethnal Green Underground Station, the worst single loss of civilian life during World War II to take place in the UK. As shelters were developed and people adapted to the hellish uncertainty of life under Blitz conditions, the bombing raids continued up and down the country. London was hammered night after night, while attacks on other cities were more sporadic but were devastating when they came. On the 14th of November 1940, the city of Coventry was devastated by a particularly prolonged raid, which flattened 4,300 homes.
Oh my goodness.
The destruction was so comprehensive that some German leaders would thereafter use the word Coventriet or Coventried as a byword for total destruction. In May of 1941, after an unimaginable period of near-daily raids, the Blitz came to an end, called off by Hitler himself. He now wished to send his forces east to fight the Soviet Union, and could not spare the air power needed to continue the relentless attack. Unbeknownst to him, however, the Blitz that he had overseen had already changed the course of the war, though not in the way he had hoped. Hitler's shift in focus from hitting military targets to hitting population centres had allowed the Royal Air Force a chance to recover, rebuild, and reinforce.
Right.
Had the Luftwaffe continued to strike military targets, Britain's forces would have been decimated. As it was, they now stood a fighting chance against the German war machine. The people of London, Liverpool, Manchester, and other British cities who survived the Blitz survived a living nightmare, sometimes with very little protection.
Boy, I tell you, if Hitler had enough supplies, say he had enough supplies to keep bombing London every night, he would have burnt that place to the ground until it was just impossible to rebuild it. He would have made sure that it was just burned down. Now that I'm thinking about the type of person he was, yeah, he definitely was not showing any mercy towards this. That's disgusting.
Or support.
You know, there's different ways
Their
to fight a
suffering,
war.
at least,
Not like
was
this.
not for nothing.
You don't get at the innocent people, you know? I'm sorry for pausing so much. You guys let me know what you thought about this video down below in the comments, please. This is my first time hearing about this topic, and this whole situation just has my head a little messed up right now. And thankfully, I was able to gather all this information throughout this video, and I clearly understand what was going on. And this is crazy. You know, innocent people shouldn't be at war. You know, if you're going to have war, the military should be military versus military. The innocent people should not be involved. Why are we doing that? That is so unfair. That is so unfair. You might as well just go ahead and hand all those people, go drop some ammunition off to all those people first before you start bombing their homes and everything like this night by night. You might as well just do that because you're not giving them no hope in the first place. Like, this is crazy. It's disgusting. Please like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications on. Let me know what you guys thought about this, please. Help me learn about this past history that we did not learn about in this country. Like I said, man, 40 to 50%. But guess what? We here now. We here now. We learn about it now. I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the family, man. Welcome to the family. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope everybody has a great night, and I will see you all next video. Stay safe.